Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the newest Marvel Cinematic Universe film and is directed by James Gunn from the first Guardians of the Galaxy and stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, and among others, and is the sequel to one of the biggest, one of my favorite Marvel films of 2004 of this universe so far that they've set up from 2014.
It's also my favorite, one of my favorites too.
Yeah,
I think this one and Captain America's are the best so far in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and well, to just a little quick backstory, I am quite a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm glad that they are still consistently bringing more good movies back to back with everyone that comes out.
I'm not a fanboy of either DC or Marvel. I like them both equally. I guess you could say sometimes I side more with DC more, but I am going to give Marvel credit. They're building their universe pretty damn good compared to DC's. DC's, in my opinion, is a little mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess, but that's another story. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this movie. You know, when the trailers first came out, and they did the classic Ugo Chaka song.
Blue Suede.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you right now, the marketing behind the first trailer was damn good, and you know, it got me hyped.
It did, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, you can tell that this is going to be, it's still giving you that vibe like the first one did, where based on trailers alone, you're getting that fun factor where you're really getting to the humor that they're doing and things like that. So I was already pumped as it was.
Yeah, and I like in 2014, right?
Yeah.
I went and seen that at the drive-in in 2014 when it first came out, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was in my top 10 favorite movies of that year. You know, I like everything about it.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean...
But basically, the story goes with this one, we pick up about a few years after the events of the last movie, where the Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord, Gamora, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Drax are on this mission that they're serving for this, I believe it's called the Sovereign race.
Which is kind of like Star Trek Into Darkness, because basically they start off where they're on another planet saving it.
Yeah, and basically they're fighting this big tentacle monster for this this group, this alien race called, or these people that are basically painted in gold that are called the Severians or Severan races, I believe, who their leader, his name is Aisha, and in return they get basically by defeating this tentacle monster, they get in exchange for Gamora's sister Nebula, who is basically now a prisoner that they take and on board. And so as the story goes along, we see that the Guardians basically kind of avoid that. We want to kind of avoid it from there because basically the rest of the story involves a plot involving Star-Lord's father, who's played by Kurt Russell. And we'll leave it at that because we really don't want to give any spoilers away. Basically, the rest of the film deals with
them saving planets,
and
they get betrayed by somebody, and a couple people actually. And basically, we get to see some. What's pretty cool is we get to see a lot of different faces. We'll actually talk more about that in the spoiler review.
Yeah.
But it's basically this. Kind of like the first one.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Did its own thing too. At the
same
time. If you want to know more detail of the plots and want to see us speak more about it, that's for a spoiler review. So.
Yeah, but basically as it goes along, we see a story arc involving Star-Lord, and also we get the return of Yondu, who was played by Michael Rooker in the first film. So we actually get a little bit more detail with some different arcs we're seeing with the characters this time.
And we also get a really deep backstory from if y'all remember, the mom passed away at the beginning of the first one.
Yeah.
You can everybody's seen that maybe already, so you can tell that. But it really goes back into history.
Yeah, it expands a lot more.
It feels
the first one.
Who Star-Lord is and who his bloodline that we didn't know in the first one, and I mean it really leads into all that, and it does a lot of backstory.
Yeah, and basically we'll leave it at that. But I gotta tell you right now, I might sound. Everyone might call me a Marvel fanboy when I say this, but as a film itself too, I do say this movie was really damn good.
It was really, really, really good. I'm gonna go with my pros. This movie's almost got no flaws to it, though just minor flaws in it, But anyways, I'm gonna start out by the visuals are amazing. Obviously, the visuals are amazing. I did love the performances. The same people came back. Chris Pratt, and just Zoe and everybody, like he just mentioned earlier. But not only those performances, but we get a lot of new faces in this, and I thought those performances were really great.
Oh yeah, especially Kurt Russell. He actually adds a lot of complexity and charm to the franchise. I really was a welcome entry into this franchise. And so I really enjoy, and not just that, but I really enjoy Kurt Russell as an actor, and it's cool that he's getting more roles like this.
I liked how they expanded more of this universe for all these planets. Was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the comedy mixed with action.
Yeah.
Blended very well, and they do a lot more comedy in this one than they did in the first one. But it still worked because, I mean, the first one had me laughing. This one really had me laughing. I thought I was watching a straight comedy, but it works really well with the action. Because this movie also takes a very dark and emotional turn later on in the story. We'll reveal that later. But I'm going to say I enjoyed the hell out of that.
But the biggest one, too, I also give is, now, on the visual level, it's cool seeing the way they do these different planets that are shown, especially this planet that we later see that the crew goes to. And also, they actually, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's actually one part that did remind me something out of a Tex Avery cartoon that had me, laughing, the entire time. It was just so hilarious. But anyway, but not just that, but I love the way the action sequences were built this time, because you actually get to see a lot of different variety of the way that they're taking down a lot of their foes in the movie. Yeah,
and this one's got more, it's they battle hard in this. And
it does get pretty big. Yeah. It gets bigger on scale later in the film when we see a final climax that takes place.
You get the all bets are off type feel, vulnerability, shit was hitting the fan, and I was worried about that first because the comedy tone it was taking, I was hoping it would pay off later.
Yeah.
It did. I was afraid it was going to be too like that, so it wouldn't do anything like that. But I'm glad they fixed that towards the end. It made it work. All right, now the movie makes total sense in comedy and action, and
Yeah, and plus, one of my biggest praises, much like with the first film, I love the soundtrack of this movie.
The soundtrack.
This to me, I actually like the soundtrack in this one even more than the first one, because this one had a lot of songs that, much like the first one, I remember a lot growing up with, but they also got me really inclined with the action sequences go on, and it got me involved with some of the emotional parts too.
I will say that because of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we know from the first and this one, with their classic rock, tone they go with, they're starting this new trend with superhero films, Marvel Universe mainly, doing the whole retro studio thing.
Yeah.
We're getting that in Thor 3. We're kind of going to get the that same kind of music, the opening studio thing.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what we're going to start seeing a lot more.
Which is
cool, actually.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. And I'm going to tell you, I just said earlier, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorites of the whole Marvel universe so far.
Yeah, and this one definitely I feel like is a slightly more in the first one. Mm-hmm. It's about this. I like it just as much as I did with the first one.
I think it topped the first one, but I still love the first one. I love it to death. But it's cool to see a sequel actually top the first one.
Yeah.
And hoping, we're supposed to get the third one in 2020, and I'm hoping it tops the second one. You always want to see better and better. What else can they do?
Yeah, and the biggest, actually, as far as comedies wise, the biggest scene stealers for me that stood out the most was probably Drax. Drax had a lot of moments.
Drax. I'm actually glad he got a lot more, because they were first meeting each other in the first one, and he was kind of grumpy, but he also didn't have. He had the least amount of lines.
He was very straightforward. He didn't have that colorful persona.
And I guess it was because none of them were comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
Now we're a couple years. Now they've been all working together. Now they became family.
Yeah.
And it's oh my God, he had me rolling throughout this film. And not only that, it does a lot of cool retro stuff with game.
We won't mention it, but they do some cool 80s references that are pretty cool.
If you want to know, that's going to be on the spoiler review.
Yeah.
But overall, man, this is going to be my top 10 probably best of this year. And I strongly believe, I'm not counting Logan because this is not part of this universe, but I think this is going to probably be the strongest Marvel Universe movie of this year.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, obviously haven't seen Spider-Man yet, and I'm sure that's going to be good, but it's kind of hard to top Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, this one just it brings everything
out.
Yeah, it brings everything that you can to expand on the first one, but it also gives you still that fun factor like the first one as well.
I have a blast in both these movies.
And so with that, overall, since I have little or no flaws, if it had any flaw that I can think of, I was a little thrown off with the way that the film was going at first because there's a particular villain in this film that I'm not really too sure on what exactly her.
I guess you could say the spending time on what the villain you think it is that you think is kind of still the villain, but you thought they were the whole villain. You kind of don't spend too much time to know why or who they are.
That person is. Yeah.
I guess that I can complain. I guess maybe a couple jokes dragged out, but it wasn't like painfully dragged out. Like I can actually not even care about it because it didn't even bug me.
Yeah, so some of the jokes did kind of drag out a little too much because there are a couple of them there's about one that's a running joke that goes throughout the film that did.
I will say one other thing that probably is a little flaw was the first part of the movie. Like, it's when they're going to all these plants or saving all that stuff. It does feel like those scenes are rushed. Yeah. They're, like, hurrying out, trying to rush through those parts. But, I mean, it's not like it bugs you because you're having so much fun with this movie. So
yeah, not just that, but the one of my biggest praises I have, too, with the film as well is Michael Rooker as Yondu. Yeah. He gets a lot more shiny moments in this that I really do love.
Yeah, I'm glad that they get, like, you remember him, he was the guy who was the bounty hunter after Star-Lord in the first movie because Star-Lord stole from him. Yeah. But there's a lot more to that guy, and I advise you to go see this movie. This movie is really damn good because there's actually a deeper, darker story with this guy.
Yeah, it's
emotional
cool.
too. Yeah. And I like you said, Michael Rooker. I gotta say, I praise his performance.
It's like he's also another scene stealer. Yeah. So, but overall though, with the little tiny flaw I had with the film, I will say that this is definitely a 9.5 out of 10
yeah,
for me.
I'm going to agree with you, 9.5 out of 10. It's probably going to end up being my top 10 as usual because I enjoyed the hell out of these movies. But yeah. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, and for those of you who have seen Guardians of the Galaxy, what did you guys think of it? Comment below, and if you like what you see here, you can check out more of my reviews. And stay tuned, and we'll be coming up next with our spoiler review of it. We'll see you later.
Later.